People from the Netherlands, it's been a minute, but I'm back, baby. I will be working a couple of days with my friends at Team Trovis on March 31st and April 1st. Only those 2 days. If you're from Amsterdam, don't even dare writing me and asking me if I will also be there. It's just fucking 40 minutes train ride. It takes me longer to go to work every day. Click the link in the description below and I'll see you there. And welcome back. Another week unpacking the mess that I created in episode number 1. Just so that you get an idea of the aftermath of that episode, I'm actually starting to consider the possibility of testing for ADD. That's how bad it was. Not so much the first episode. I think it happened mostly cutting trailers for episode number 2. I realized that it's very difficult to find a minute that I stay within a topic and that I don't fucking finish any sentences. So with that and a couple other red flags that my wife has brought up throughout the years, I think it's time. So who knows? Maybe as episodes move along, you actually get to see someone being diagnosed of adult ADD live and properly treated for it, and all of a sudden I'll stick to my points and finish my sentences and I'll become a new person. Who knows? But in any case, we continue breaking down all these scattered bits and pieces of topics that I opened up that first episode, and I didn't have the knowledge, time, or the patience to really, more the focus to really dive into. So we addressed already we kind of like started touching the topic of gatekeepers in last week's episode, and I think in this one we have enough time to really dive deep from the get-go into this idea of the fuck was I saying? A mouthful. Artistic expression through technical disruption or something like this. Fucking douchebag. I think it's easier to understand like the idea of like mistakes make styles, right? So I just kept on throwing that out there as if it was a universal truth, and it needs some foundation. So I remember I used to work with I used to work at a studio called 1928 Club in Berlin, surrounded by really talented tattooers, and it had a little bit more of a traditional energy to it. It was not a traditional studio, but you could tell that my boss and friend Wahid, he had that technical appreciation for tattooing and loved to get surrounded by people who were technically sound and really good. And one of the best guys at the studio was my friend Joao Takayama. And he used to say, follow that purple line, man. Follow that purple line. It's all I want to do. And it sounds stupid. He was referring obviously to the stencil line. And it sounds really stupid, but it's almost like a surfer type of life philosophy in which you just focus in this one thing and let it guide you, and try not to overthink, not to put too much pressure into things. Just take it one line at a time. And for a long time, that really made it for me. I used to have a very, very different style to the one I have now. And I used to take one line at a time and put everything I got in that one line to come out perfect, right? It was like almost breathing exercises leading into the line. And then one day, boom, just like that, it stopped making it for me, right? But there's a lot of people that continue that journey of almost with it's almost like an unspoken rule that for a tattoo to be good, you have to hide human error. You have to hide the human hand. Baby monitor, hold on. This is live TV, guys. Okay, all good. So yeah, it's almost like you need to hide your mistakes, and with them you hide essentially the human hand, right? You don't want any trace that indicates that tattoo was made by a human. It's almost like you want it to look printed on the skin. And it's not only with the lines, but also the feelings, right? So you determine if a tattoo is good or not by how solid the lines were or how solid the lines are and how solid the feelings are. And if there's textures and if there's flow variations in the lines, then that tattoo fucking sucks. And this has been like that for many, many, many years. And one day I kind of understood, not that I stumbled upon that thought on my own. This is a conversation for another day. Pioneering tattooers helped me realize that, but I'll talk more about that time and those people in another episode. But one day I essentially realized, like, fuck, I'm missing here an opportunity. Every line is an opportunity to also put something of myself in it, to express, and it's another tool to express. Like, of course, even if you do clean lines and clean feelings, you get to express ideas and by the subject matter you choose and composition. So there's many elements that you can use to express yourself as an artist. But if you're kind of disregarding lines because, well, there's only one way lines can be and there's only one way feelings can be, and you don't see that with a little bit more of hand gesture and motion and flowiness, you can actually also tell things with your lines and with the texture and rawness and boldness and the directionality or whatever of the traces in your black feelings. You're missing out on two huge components that could give an extra layer of expression to that tattoo, right? So I think in my case, I figured out how to use these to my advantage once the technical skills got me there, right? It was all about writing that fucking purple line for a long, long time. And once I felt my lines were solid and I was happy where I was at, one day it stopped motivating me to put everything I had into getting these clean, bold lines. It was not motivating me anymore. And I felt that perhaps because I had reached that level that I could revisit my old drawings the way I used to draw and paint before I became a tattooer, and see if I could now, with my new set of skills, kind of incorporate those drawing errors and mannerisms into my tattoos, right? Of pose and a clatter of clothes when Schnitzel von Krum with a very low tongue, Blitzer Maloney, old skinny and bony, Muffin McLay like a bundle of hay, bottomly pots covered in spots, Hercules Morse as weak as a horse, and Harry McLary from Donaldson's Dairy. Nailed it. I'm sure that someday this channel will have sponsors. This is why I'm training super hard to make the best ad reads, but let's be honest, we're a long way from there. This is why we need your support in the meantime. Liking, subscribing, sharing, all these goes a long way, but we need some money too. I think this channel can grow to be something really, really special, but it takes a lot of time away from my actual work as a tattooer. So, we've launched a GoFundMe campaign to collect donations, not only for this project, but also my other two ones, UFOP and Hiragana Studio, which are non-profits that help in one way or another up-and-coming tattooers and where I work pro bono, which is a very fancy way to say for free. Okay, so the cool thing about GoFundMe compared to other crowdfunding platforms is that it's not all or nothing. This means that you don't need to reach the campaign's goal to have access to the donations. So anything that you send our way, minus a little percentage for the platform, will make its way to us and help us not only sustain these projects, but who knows, maybe even get some help in the future, which would be super nice. Click the link in the description below, read a little bit more about the campaign, and yeah, help us continue the good work. So that's essentially what I did, right? I took the drawings I used to do before I got in this trip of being a tattooer, cleaning my lines, cleaning my shapes and whatnot. I took those drawings and I wouldn't say like one-to-one translated them into tattoos, but I kind of brought what I knew or what I had learned in tattooing and then modified slightly my drawings so that they would work better as tattoos, right? At that point, I got a lot of pushback. I will talk a little bit more about that in another episode because I think it might be an interesting testimony that maybe someone can relate to when they try to do a radical change of style because they feel is the right way to go, and then there's the industry side of it that almost like makes you scared to do that change, right? There's like clients that you may lose because the new style is not what they're used to. There's like a set of skills that maybe you're disregarding and you cannot capitalize on, blah, blah, blah. So this maybe another time. Fucking learning how to, throw things into another episode. Cool. So stick to the fucking topic. For the most part, regarding this little bit of this pushback, not a little bit, this pushback that I had, I think most tattooers can get behind what I did, right? Which is essentially bringing into tattooing errors, mistakes, mannerisms, and gestures that were done in other disciplines, right? No one has a problem with tattooers that do a living by reproducing the work of Egon Schiele or Basquiat or whatever. And all those tattoos end up having scratchy pencil texture in them. They end up having like paint splatters and brush strokes that are like too dry and that they leave little traces, right? So texture and shitty lines are celebrated in tattooing as long as they are emulating drawings, because those mistakes, when made on drawings or paintings, they are okay. But why are those errors done in other disciplines okay and the ones done in tattoos are not, right? It's almost like there's this principle that if a mistake was done because of a lack of technique, then you're not a tattooer and that's unacceptable. And if they were done purposely, that's unethical to fuck someone's skin purposely. So it feels like this is almost where my whole generation draws the line, but there's a whole generation of new expressionist tattooers that don't give a fuck about that. They celebrate also those errors in tattoos. Blowouts, small variations on the line, lines that they pass so quick and with so small groupings that they disappear partially, using groupings that make no fucking sense to make feelings, to leave textured blacks, almost, I don't know, like outlining certain areas that as if they were going to be filled with black, and then I don't know if it's made on purpose, it's part of the style, but kind of bailing halfway through and going like, you get the idea, I don't need to feel all that, right? So it seems like from the artist's perspective, this is shifting and they are starting to also not only accept as part of the experimentation to end up having these mistakes as a result, but they're almost celebrating them and embracing them and making them cooler, right? It feels almost like nowadays from their perspective, when a tattoo is really interesting, but very, very well done. It's almost like, it's too sleek for me. It could be a little bit more organic, a little bit. I could see a little bit more of the gesture of the tattooer and the hand of the tattooer with his mistakes and his, I don't know, like, mannerisms, gestures, and whatnot. So then the question is, are these artists doing those mistakes on purpose or not on the skin of clients that are unaware and that are victims of these unethical tattooers? The answer is no. You cannot say no 100% of the cases, but I think for the most part, clients are in on it. I can see how tattoo collectors are also shifting their aesthetics, and not everyone, of course, but the people that are interested in expressionism, they are willing not only to be a canvas to those artists that are willing to experiment and get wild, but they're almost wanting to be a collaborator. Again, this is another topic that maybe we will talk another time, but I feel like in the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years, clients have gone from this figure of being a tattoo collector that takes a piece and puts it and preserves it and makes sure that no one fucks with it around the sleeve or wherever they chose it. I feel like these clients are evolving into almost, not even curators, but almost collaborators of the tattooers, right? They decide to last over and under pieces of tattooers. They decide that this one would look very cool when entering in a dialogue with the work of this other tattooer. So their collection is layered, is mutating, is almost alive, instead of just like sticking a piece in a place and respecting it and revering it so that it doesn't devaluate, That's a little bit more the mindset that clients used to bring a few years ago, and now I can feel that they're really into the idea of being part of the experiment and the performance that is about to take place, and that the end result is not as important as it used to be, and also it's almost celebrated that it's not as perfect as it used to be. So I think that's the key to it, right? Embracing error makes you unafraid to fuck up and makes you more willing to take risks. And those risks is what we need for tattooing to really, really become a legitimate art discipline, right? Without those risk takers, these will just stay kind of repeating its own tropes for the next 300 fucking years. So overall, I know that these open the door to a lot of hacks that are capitalizing on the fact that the technical standards have lowered like hell. But I think this is a price absolutely worth paying for the few outliers that will propel these into the next fucking level. And I'm super excited to be alive in this moment and see this happening in front of my eyes. More on this topic another time. That's all the time we got for today. Actually, way more than I wanted to spend. But, that's my fucking brain. Again, if you think that despite the rantings of a madman and the scatterness of my brain, that there are some interesting ideas here, and you're willing to give me some time to figure out the pacing and the tone for these episodes, if you feel like this is moving in a direction that is really, really interesting, please support us. Like, share, subscribe, donate. You'll find a link in the description below. Make sure that you help us ensure that these episodes will have enough life for it to really become what it needs to become. Now is just in the baby stage, and I have no doubt that this will become a useful platform, not only because of the discussions and the thought process behind it, but also hopefully one day it's going to become a platform where people can actually come in, have their voice heard, and that will be a good ambassador for this expressionist wave that is starting to infiltrate the tattoo world from the outside. So yeah, again, that's me. That's everything for today, and I'll see you next week. Take care.